Daily Speak. Learn, listen, speak.
Hey there, and welcome back to Daily Speak, English podcast. I'm David, and I'm really glad you're here with me today. Now, today I have another story for you, and this one is special. It's a story about a letter that was written with love and then lost, a letter that traveled through 20 long years before it finally arrived, and when it did, it changed everything. It's a story about time and love and second chances. And I think, by the end, it might just touch your heart. So, here's how we do this. I'll tell the story slowly, in clear, simple English. You just relax and listen. Don't worry about understanding every single word. Just follow the story and let the English flow into you, gently, naturally. That's the beautiful way to learn, through a story. So, get comfortable. Maybe make yourself a warm cup of tea. Let the world go quiet for a while. And let's begin. Our story begins in a small seaside town on a rainy afternoon in autumn. There was a woman named Clara. Clara was 52 years old. She lived alone in a small house near the sea with a gray cat named Whiskers and a garden full of roses. Clara had a quiet life, a calm life. But if you looked closely into her eyes, you would see a kind of sadness there. A soft, old sadness that had lived with her for a very long time. You see, many years ago, when Clara was young, she had loved someone, truly loved someone. His name was Daniel. Clara and Daniel had met when they were both 22. It was summer. She was working in a little bookshop by the sea, and he came in one day looking for a book of poems. And when their eyes met across that dusty little shop, well, Clara always said it felt like the whole world went quiet. They fell in love. Deeply, completely in love. That summer was the happiest of Clara's life. They walked along the beach every evening. They talked for hours about everything and about nothing. They dreamed of a future together, a little house, a garden, a life. But life, as it often does, had other plans. At the end of that summer, Daniel had to leave. He was offered a job in another country, far away. A wonderful job, an opportunity he couldn't refuse. And he asked Clara to come with him. But Clara was afraid. Her family was here. Her whole life was here. And she was young and scared of such a big change. So they had a terrible argument. Both of them said things they didn't mean. Angry words, painful words. And in the end, Daniel left. He got on a train and he went away, and Clara stayed. They didn't say a proper goodbye. They didn't say, "I'm sorry." They just parted in anger and in pain. And Clara always regretted it. For 30 years, she carried that regret in her heart. She often wondered what had happened to Daniel. Did he marry? Was he happy? Did he ever think of her the way she still thought of him? But she never knew. He had disappeared from her life, like a train vanishing into the distance, and she had never heard from him again. Now let me pause the story for just a moment, because I want you to feel Clara's sadness. It's a very human kind of sadness, isn't it? The sadness of what might have been, of words left unsaid. Have you ever had that feeling? A goodbye you wish you could do again? Just hold that gently as we continue. Okay, back to the story. So, on this rainy autumn afternoon, 30 years later, Clara was sitting by her window, drinking tea and watching the rain fall on her roses. Then she heard a sound, the soft click of the letterbox. The mail had arrived. Clara sighed and got up. She didn't get much mail these days, usually just bills or advertisements. She walked to the door and picked up the small pile of letters from the floor. She looked through them, one by one. A bill, an advertisement. And then she stopped. At the bottom of the pile was an old letter, a very old letter. The envelope was yellow with age. The paper was soft and worn, as if it had traveled a very long way for a very long time. And the handwriting on the front, the handwriting that spelled out her name, Clara, froze. She knew that handwriting. She would know it anywhere, even after 30 years. It was Daniel's handwriting. Clara's hands began to shake. Her heart pounded in her chest. How could this be? A letter from Daniel? After all these years, she looked at the postmark, the little stamp that shows when a letter was sent, and she gasped. The letter had been sent 20 years ago. 20 years! It had been written and mailed 20 years ago, but it had only arrived today. Clara didn't understand. How could a letter take 20 years to arrive? Where had it been all this time? Her legs felt weak. She sat down slowly in her chair, holding the old yellow envelope in her trembling hands. For a long moment, she just stared at it, afraid to open it, afraid of what it might say, afraid of the feelings it might bring back. But finally, gently, carefully, she opened the envelope, and she took out the letter, and she began to read. Now, before I tell you what the letter said, let me pause again. Imagine holding a letter like that, from a person you loved and lost 30 years ago, written 20 years ago, just arriving today. Your whole past suddenly in your hands. Can you feel Clara's heart beating? Okay, let's read the letter together with her. The letter said this: "My dearest Clara, I hope this letter finds you well. I know it has been 10 years since that summer, since we last spoke. 10 years of silence. And I am sorry for that silence. It is my greatest regret." Clara's eyes filled with tears. 10 years, the letter said. So Daniel had written this letter 10 years after their summer. And now, 20 more years had passed. She read on. "I have thought about you every single day, Clara. Every day for 10 years. I have traveled the world. I have built a career. I have seen beautiful places and met many people. But I have never, ever forgotten you. And I have never stopped loving you." Clara pressed her hand to her mouth. The tears were flowing freely now. "I am writing to you because I cannot carry this silence any longer. That argument we had on our last day, it was foolish. We were young and afraid. But the truth is simple, Clara. I love you. I have always loved you, and I believe you loved me too. So I am asking you, my dear Clara, for a second chance. I am coming back to our town, to the little bookshop by the sea where we first met. I will be there on the first day of spring next year. I will wait for you there by the poetry books at noon. If you feel in your heart the way I feel, then please come and find me, and we can begin again. And if you do not come, then I will understand, and I will let you go, and I will wish you a happy life. With all my love, always, Daniel." Clara held the letter to her chest, and she wept. But her tears were not only sad. They were a mix of everything. Joy that he had loved her, grief for all the lost years, and a terrible, aching pain. Because you see, Clara understood something now, something heartbreaking. Daniel had written this letter and asked her to meet him on the first day of spring. But that spring had been 20 years ago. He had gone to the bookshop 20 years ago and waited for her, and she had never come, because she had never received the letter. He had waited, and she had never appeared. And so, he must have thought that she didn't love him, that she had chosen to let him go. When the truth was, she never even knew. 20 years. 20 years they had lost, because a letter got lost in the mail. Clara felt her heart breaking all over again. All this time, Daniel had thought she didn't care. And all this time, she had thought he had simply disappeared. Two people who loved each other, kept apart by a single lost letter. Let me pause here because this is such a painful, beautiful moment. A misunderstanding that lasted 20 years. Neither of them knew the truth. Sometimes life turns on the smallest thing. A letter, a word, a single moment. Okay, but our story is not over, not at all. Let's continue. Clara sat in her chair for a long time, holding the letter, crying softly. The rain fell against the window. But then, slowly, a new thought entered her mind. A small, brave thought. The letter was 20 years old. The meeting Daniel spoke of had passed long ago. But Daniel had written this letter, which meant at least 20 years ago he had still loved her. He had still wanted her. And Clara thought, what if he still does? What if it's not too late, even now? She had to know. She had to try. She could not spend the rest of her life wondering, what if, the way she had already spent 30 years wondering. But how could she find him? She had no address, no phone number, nothing. Just an old letter and a name. Then Clara looked again at the envelope, and she saw something. In the corner, there was a return address. Daniel's address, from 20 years ago. It was in a city far away. He had probably moved 100 times since then, but it was something. It was a place to begin. So Clara made a decision, the bravest decision of her life. She decided to find Daniel. That night, she could not sleep. She thought about all the reasons not to go. She was older now. He was probably married. He had probably forgotten her. She might be humiliated. She might get her heart broken all over again. But then she remembered something. She remembered being 22 years old, standing on that train platform, watching Daniel leave, too afraid to run after him. She remembered the regret of that moment, a regret she had carried for 30 years. And she thought, I will not make the same mistake twice. This time, I will be brave. This time, I will run after him. Let me pause once more, because this is the turning point. 30 years ago, fear won. Clara stayed. But now, older and wiser, she chooses courage. It's never too late to choose differently. Remember that. Okay, let's see what Clara does. The next morning, Clara packed a small bag. She asked her neighbor to look after Whiskers, her cat, and she set off on a journey to find a man she had loved and lost 30 years ago. She traveled by train to the faraway city, the same kind of train that had taken Daniel away all those years ago. As the countryside rushed past the window, her heart was full of hope and fear, all mixed together. When she arrived in the city, she found the street from the old envelope, and she found the building. Her heart pounding, she knocked on the door. An old woman answered. She looked at Clara with kind, curious eyes. "Excuse me," said Clara, her voice trembling. "I'm looking for a man named Daniel. He lived here about 20 years ago. Do you know him? Do you know where he went?" The old woman thought for a moment. "Daniel," she said slowly. Yes, I remember Daniel. A kind man, quiet. He loved his books, but he moved away. Oh, many years ago now." Clara's heart sank. "Do you know where he went?" she asked. "I'm not sure," said the woman. "But wait, he used to work at the university, teaching literature. Perhaps they would know. You could ask there." Clara thanked the woman and hurried to the university. She asked at the office, and yes, they remembered Professor Daniel. But he had retired 5 years ago and moved away to a small town by the sea. They gave her the name of the town. And Clara almost laughed through her tears, because the town they named, it was a seaside town, much like her own. Of course it was. Daniel had always loved the sea. So Clara traveled on, another train, another journey, following the trail of the man she loved across the years and across the miles. Finally, tired but determined, she arrived in the small seaside town. And she began to ask, in shops, in cafes, on the street, "Do you know a man named Daniel?" An older man, a retired professor who loves books and the sea. And at last, in a small cafe, a young woman smiled and said, "Oh, Daniel. Yes, of course. Everyone knows Daniel. He owns the little bookshop down by the harbor. He's there every day." A bookshop by the sea, just like the one where they had first met 30 years ago. Clara's heart nearly stopped. With shaking legs and a pounding heart, Clara walked down to the harbor. And there, on a quiet corner, she saw it. A small, charming bookshop with a blue door and a window full of books. Above the door, a little wooden sign read, "Second Chance Books." Second Chance Books. Clara stood outside and she wept, because she understood. He had named his shop that, a second chance. Perhaps he had never stopped hoping either. Let me pause here at the door of the shop. Clara has traveled so far, through so many years, so many miles, so much fear, and now the moment has come. Take a breath with her. Okay, let's go inside. Clara took a deep breath and she opened the blue door. A little bell rang softly above her. Inside, the shop was warm and quiet and full of the lovely smell of old books. Sunlight came through the window, falling on the shelves, and there, at the back of the shop, sitting in a comfortable chair, with a book of poems in his hands, was an old man. His hair was gray now. His face was lined with age, but Clara knew him. Instantly, completely, it was Daniel. He looked up at the sound of the bell, and he saw her, and for a long, long moment, neither of them moved, neither of them breathed. "Clara?" Daniel whispered. His voice was full of disbelief. "Clara, is it really you?" "It's me, Daniel," said Clara, tears rolling down her cheeks. "It's really me." Daniel stood up slowly, the book falling from his hands. He walked toward her, staring as if she were a ghost, as if he could not believe his own eyes. "But how?" he said. "After all these years, I thought you didn't love me. I waited for you, Clara. 20 years ago, I waited at our old bookshop on the first day of spring. I waited all day, but you never came. And I thought you had chosen to let me go." "I never got your letter, Daniel," Clara cried. "That's why I never came. Your letter, it only arrived yesterday, 20 years late. I never knew you were waiting. I never knew you still loved me. If I had known, oh Daniel, I would have come. I would have run to you." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "The letter only arrived yesterday," he whispered, "after 20 years. "Yes," said Clara, 20 years, lost. But the moment I read it, I came to find you. I have traveled for days, Daniel, following you across the whole country, because I never stopped loving you either, not for one single day." And Daniel, this old man, began to weep, and he opened his arms, and Clara walked into them. And after 30 years apart, after a lost letter and a lifetime of regret, they held each other at last. Now, let me slow down here, because this is the heart of the whole story. They stood there, in the little bookshop by the sea, holding each other and crying and laughing all at once. Two people, in the autumn of their lives, given a gift they never thought they would receive, a second chance. "I can't believe it," Daniel said softly, holding her face in his hands. "I had given up hope. I named this shop Second Chance Books as a foolish dream, a hope I didn't really believe in. And now, here you are, my second chance walking through my door." "We lost so many years," said Clara sadly. 20 years, Daniel, because of a lost letter. Just think of the life we could have had." But Daniel shook his head and he smiled, a gentle, wise smile. "Yes," he said, "we lost 20 years, and that is a great sadness. But Clara, we cannot get those years back. We cannot change the past. All we can do is choose what to do now. And I choose you. I choose to spend whatever time we have left together. Don't you see? It's not too late. It's never too late, as long as we are still here." And Clara understood. Yes, they had lost so much, but they had not lost everything. They still had now. They still had today. And they still had each other. Let me pause the story here for a moment to share the lesson hidden inside it. Because Daniel is right, we cannot change the past. We cannot get back the lost years, the lost letters, the words left unsaid, but we always, always have now. And now is where life is lived. Hold that thought. Okay, let's finish our story. And so, Clara and Daniel began again. Clara did not go back to her old life. She stayed in that little seaside town. And a few months later, in that very same bookshop, Second Chance Books, Clara and Daniel were married. It was a small, simple wedding, just a few friends, but it was the happiest day either of them had ever known. They spent their days together in the bookshop, surrounded by poems and stories. In the evenings, they walked along the beach, hand in hand, just as they had done 30 years before when they were young. The sea was the same, the sunset was the same, and their love, it turned out, was the same too. It had simply waited for them all those years. They did not have 30 years together. They were older now. But they had 10 beautiful years. 10 years of quiet mornings and long walks and shared books and gentle love. And Clara often said that those 10 years were worth more than any others in her whole life. Because she had learned, the hardest way, never to waste a single precious day. And that old letter? The one that arrived 20 years late? Clara kept it, always, in a small wooden box by her bed. It had cost them 20 years, but in the end, it had brought them back together. It had given them their second chance. And sometimes, life is like that. Sometimes, what seems like the cruelest accident, a lost letter, a wrong turn, a missed chance, is really just a longer road, leading you home. So let me ask you, gently, as our story ends, is there someone you've lost touch with? Someone you loved or cared for, but let slip away? A friend, a family member, an old love. Someone you never said goodbye to or never said sorry to. Don't wait 20 years, like Clara and Daniel. Don't wait for a lost letter to bring you back together. If there is someone in your heart, reach out to them. Today, write the letter, make the call, say the words. Because the truth is, it's never too late as long as you are still here. But it's always too late once the chance is gone. Well, that is our story for today. The letter that arrived 20 years late. I hope it moved your heart the way it moves mine. And I hope you practiced your English too, just by listening and following the story and feeling every moment of it. That is the magic of a story. You learn the language, and you feel something real at the very same time. Now, here's something for you to do. In the comments below, tell me, is there someone you should reach out to? Someone you've lost touch with? You don't have to share the whole story. Just write, in English, one sentence. I want to reconnect with, and say who. Writing it down is the first small step, and I read every single comment. And if this story touched you, please give the video a like and share it with someone you love. Maybe it will remind them too not to wait. And of course, subscribe to Daily Speak English podcast for more stories and gentle English practice every week. Thank you so very much for spending this time with me today. It truly means the world. I'm David. Don't wait to say the words that matter. Reach out while you still can. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself and take care of the people you love. Bye for now.